Guys, I have such a nuanced and interesting take about the Amazing Digital Circus finale. I don't exactly like it, nor do I hate it, okay? I'm a lot more nuanced than that. Sorry about the noise. I'm doing my laundry. Let me tell you, while you peons have seen the world in black and white, I am somewhere in the middle, okay? I'm gray. And if you're gray, you're right. Oh, I'm so nuanced. Oh, I'm so smart and nuanced. Oh. Anyways, episode 9. I walked away from the Digital Circus finale with an overwhelming sense of existential dread. Look, I even tweeted about it. Follow me on Twitter, please! The knot I felt in my stomach can be entirely attributed to the series' big reveal that our main characters were simply memory scans of their outside counterparts this whole time. Or maybe I was just hungry, I don't know. This essentially means that the real versions of these characters are living their best lives in the real world, completely oblivious to the fact that they essentially created a severed version of themselves. Like in Severance, I'm talking about the show Severance. Despite the other connotations of this twist that we will get to later, I did not in a million years see this twist coming. I think it was a dark and bold creative decision to have the series end with the characters not escaping the circus because they literally physically cannot under any circumstance leave. Nothing changes in the real world either, meaning people's consciousnesses will continue to get trapped in the circus and characters will always be living under the threat of abstraction for literally all of eternity because nobody can die here, and the only fundamental difference between the first and last episode is that Kane feels more sympathetic towards humans and Jax is basically dead.
Guys, we're literally having a sleepover with Jax and Poppy! Oh my god, it's time for bed, guys!
So much of the criticism I've seen levied towards this episode has to do with how much screen time is afforded to Jax, who is intentionally the least likable character in the show. She's misogynistic, homophobic, she's probably racist. It's my personal headcanon that she made Ribbit abstract because she found out her voice actress is Filipino. The message at the core of the Amazing Digital Circus is that regardless of your circumstance, at the end of the day, being there for the people around you is most important. In this regard, Jax is the show's greatest challenge. The least likable person, who does nothing but spew venom and push others away, is the last person one would feel inclined to be supportive of. On one hand, I can understand why people feel cheated that the final episode is, for all intents and purposes, a Jax episode. After all, Kinger and Gangle got their own dedicated episodes. Where's my Zubul episode? Or my Ragatha episode? Nobody told Gooseworks to set the precedent of each character getting their own little individualized story for sure, but at a certain point we need to recognize that stories aren't checklists. Sure, it's weird that we didn't get a dedicated Zubul or Ragatha episode in the same fashion as Kinger, Gangle, Jax, Kane, or Jax, but I wouldn't go so far as to say these characters are undeveloped. More so that they're underdeveloped. We get glimpses hinting at the motivations behind these characters, but they're never explained in a digestible way. Because of this, scenes like this come across as completely jarring and unearned.
Pomni, Abigail Brooks. She's still an accountant, but she seems to have opened up more, and is hanging out with new friends more often. She even has some of them in her videos with her, which she still posts on occasion.
This moment is framed as a cathartic resolution for this character, but there's just one problem. When was Pomni's motivation established to be wanting to open up more and have more friends? All we knew about her was that she was an accountant and a YouTuber before she got sent to the circus. How are we supposed to see this moment as cathartic when nothing about the story pointed to this being her motivation? For a character who is supposedly closed off and antisocial, she's way too kind, clean, and trustworthy. From episode 2, she was established as the character people trust enough to vent to, when shouldn't that have been something she earned? So yeah, underdeveloped for sure, but I still think that these characters are interesting enough, even if they're not exactly reinventing the wheel. I also think that when you take a step back and view Jax as what she's supposed to be, that being the final boss of unlikability, the last challenge the characters need to overcome to hammer home the message of the show, the main antagonist, it starts to make make a lot more sense as to why she's the focus of the final episode. The problem is, the behaviors Jax displays throughout the story are not befitting of a main antagonist. An antagonist should be an asshole, sure, which Jax is tenfold, but her actions should also be actively detrimental to the progression of the characters and the story. Jax doesn't feel like a main antagonist, not just because Gooseworks chose to supplant her with Kane, but also because the story focuses more on the threat of Jax abstracting herself rather than causing others to abstract or hindering the other characters' means of escape. The one time Jax would have done so, that being the end of episode 7 in which she presses the stay in the circus button, would have been an impactful scene. It would have been a fantastic turning point for the series that properly establishes Jax as an antagonist, but the entire situation was instead revealed to be completely fake, so who cares? Jax doesn't have any likable personality traits, but she's not hateable enough or enough of an obstacle to come off as a villain. The awkward middle ground Gooseworks chooses puts Jax on the same level as the other characters. Because of that, I can see why people feel like they're being cheated out of something when Jax takes up screen time. She's just another one of the cast, why is she getting all the attention? Especially when she's so goddamn insufferable compared to the other characters. The other characters are flawed but likable in their own ways. Jax is just flawed. There can be no other reason for Jax getting so much screen time other than some inherent favoritism. But I think what this argument ultimately does is detract from the core issue. The problem isn't that Jax is hogging all the screen time, the problem is the framing of Jax's scenes.
Guys, we're literally having a sleepover with Jax and Poppy! Oh my god, it's time for bed, guys!
I would like to reiterate that the overall point of Digital Circus seems to be to emphasize the importance of being there for one another in uncontrollable circumstances. That being said, when people continuously regurgitate the point that Jax is unlikable, my brain splits evenly into 5 sections and I have exactly 11 aneurysms. Surely that's the intent, right? Obviously you're not supposed to root for Jax, and anyone who complains about Jax not being likable has almost certainly unwittingly had the plot fly right over their head. The conversation starts and ends with "I don't like Jax," to which I should obviously respond, "That's the point, you media illiterate insipid baby man," and then I kick them in the balls and have hot angry sex with their mother or something. To a certain extent, I'd be justified in doing so, yeah? I see your argument of Jax is unlikable, and to that I'd raise you a "we the audience don't have to like Jax. The plot is contingent on the characters acknowledging her flaws and ultimately deciding to be there for her anyways. We the audience do not factor into that, so to say I don't like Jax as a criticism is to fundamentally fail to engage with the show on its level." However, let's take a step back and really examine this point. Surely the show isn't claiming that it's important, no, crucial to be there for people no matter how unbearably unlikable they are. That's the natural progression of that argument, right? Even though Jax has 0 redeeming qualities, I don't think she does a singular selfless act throughout the course of the series. At the end of the day, that matters less than being there for her regardless of her flaws. This odd Stockholm Syndrome-y atmosphere permeates the latter half of the series, not so much because the other characters endorse Jax's actions, quite the opposite. They see Jax as lashing out for what it is. She's trying to feel a sense of power over her tumultuous situation, rather than add fuel to the fire that is Jax's berating and bullying of others. The cast eventually learns to just ignore her until she calms down. They ostensibly treat her like a toddler. She'll tire herself out so long as you don't give her the attention she so desperately craves.
You know, things were just fine here until you and Zubul came along. Nothing. Okay.
What this unfortunately does, however, is it diminishes the weight of Jax's impact on the other characters. Jax was not in the past a person you could simply just ignore and hope for the best. Jax was not a character that could be supported in a semi-active, semi-passive way. While Gooseworks doesn't do the necessary legwork to properly establish Jax as the main antagonist, it doesn't change the fact that Jax is an abuser.
Hey, Gangle, you should ram into him.
What? You should not ram them! Tommy's still on board!
Do it, it'll be epic.
Why are there so many knives back here?
Do it, or I'll tell Ragatha about the figurine thing.
And with that out of the way, let's get to to work, guys.
Oh no! It looks like I've taken Ragatha and dropped her in the deep fryer.
Character A will take the gun into the private room and empty it out of all its ammunition, then come out and give it to Character B. Character B will then take the gun and shoot themselves in the head, trusting that Character A emptied it in the private room. Character A will also have to trust that Character B won't turn the gun on them, so everyone is incentivized to follow the rules and trust each other.
Sounds a little convoluted.
You look convoluted! Anyway, Jax, why don't you start?
With him?
Wait, what am I doing? I wasn't paying attention. Huh?
The same show that placed an emphasis on the importance of Ragatha cutting ties with her abusive mother fails to see the irony in presenting Jax as a character who needs attention, just not too much attention. A character who needs to be fully dissected, understood, and empathized with on a deeper level. A character whose death is retroactively tragic because regardless of the harm she caused, she was struggling. She needed a friend. She needed a hallway buddy.
Hey, Meg, sweetie, where's your hallway buddy?
Dad, I'm fine.
I know you're fine. I'm fine. We're all fine. It's just I'm gonna need you to go find your hallway buddy, okay?
Regardless of whether or not Jax herself has the potential to endanger said hallway buddy is inconsequential. She is the most at risk of abstraction, apparently. I don't think the show does enough to challenge the claim that had Pomni tried harder, maybe Jax wouldn't have abstracted. If the two had had a proper talk, then maybe, just maybe, Jax would still be around.
I wish I'd pried a little more. I somehow forgot how bad it can get.
You're making this so much harder.
You should have just talked to me, man.
We're able to infer that this obviously isn't the case. What's to prevent Jax from distancing herself again, just like she did after opening her heart to Ribbit?
Look, about yesterday. I'm sorry if I pried too hard or made you feel uncomfortable
What?
or...
What are you talking about? Oh, you mean... You know none of that was real, right? What, that corny backstory out of a Hallmark movie? Nah, really got you though. I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Whatever I did, whatever's going on between us, can we just stop this? I miss talking to you.
We're here. We're talking. What else do you want from me?
I just want to be friends again.
What? So you can pry into my personal life and hold it over my head?
Is that really what you think?
Why are you still fixated on that night? Nothing happened! You keep reading into things when there's nothing there! You're the one using me! You're manipulating me and
I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone.
Jax herself is even aware of this.
It's too late. I did this to myself.
It feels like the narrative is saying that abstraction was an inevitable fate for Jax due to her continued lack of growth when it comes to relying on the support of others. Jax's abstraction happens off-screen. It's a non-dramatic, uneventful death, as if to say, well, it was bound to happen eventually, which on the surface is fair. It's a natural progression for this character, but there's a couple things wrong with this. For starters, I'm having trouble feeling the tragedy of this situation, partly because Jax hasn't taken active steps towards improving herself, which definitely would have made her death hit a lot harder and the complicated emotions of the other characters more poignant.
We don't like a-holes because they are secretly sad. Rick is a walking douche who frequently calls himself God, but we see so many moments of him genuinely loving someone only to get hurt. We see him sacrificing himself for Morty in the first season, and we see him actively trying to be better and happy, like him actually trying therapy. These traits help us cheer for Rick even when he's cruel.
But most importantly, is this not just an unsatisfying and mean-spirited fate for this character? It's no secret that abstraction in this series is a thinly veiled metaphor for suicide. Gooseworks herself isn't afraid to draw this connection. The mechanisms through which people abstract, be it intense depression, isolation, or continually losing grip with reality, draw direct parallels with potential reasons for suicidal ideation.
I did this to myself.
It's the main reason why every character in this show has depression.
What a freaking drag! This whole episode's been nothing but wah, wah, wah. Where's the levity?
If these characters weren't always on the verge of mental collapse, the show would have no stakes. So what? The conclusion to your story, the most fitting way to end the narrative emphasizing the importance of being there for one another, is to just have one of your characters fuck off and kill herself off screen completely unprompted? If Pomni was able to bring her back from abstraction, that would certainly align more with the narrative Gooseworks was trying to construct, but no, Jax is here. She is present, visible, tangible. She is talking to Pomni, but it's too late. The narrative says that being there for her now isn't enough due to this universe's arbitrary rules, which is not only completely deflating, it also inadvertently undermines the show's own message. Let's be completely real here. Jax is gone. Jax is dead. In her place, a ginormous black amalgam of multicolored eyes zombified, unfeeling, unknowing, but to our main cast, this is Jax. This is our old friend Jax, and we need to help her out. We need to take care of her. The character they're being supportive of, regardless of her flaws, is no longer flawed. The character Pomni visits to have a sandwich with on occasion is not the complex, unwieldy bully who pushes others away out of fear of abandonment while deep down craving connection. It's a beast. It's Jax's grave. The conclusion we've built up to in the finale is these characters being supportive of the idea of Jax while simultaneously mourning Jax, because being supportive of Jax herself was not enough. But you should also be supportive of the people around you no matter what. Obviously, the show is trying to say something about Jax's personal responsibility in all this. Friendship is a two-way street, and she never took the steps to improve herself. All she ever did was wallow in her own self-pity and bully others until her depression became too much for her to handle. I think if the show wanted to emphasize Jax's personal responsibility in all this, the tone wouldn't be, "I'm so sorry for you, you're such a tragic character, and we all should have seen that, we all should have done more." It should have been, "Look, Jax, I see you're struggling, and we can certainly help you to an extent, but at the end of the day, you need to get off your self-aggrandizing ass and do something about your situation. Stop pushing away the people who care about you because you're afraid of getting hurt." Instead, Digital Circus fetishizes this sadness, glamorizes it. Jax goes out in a blaze of glory with all the other characters, even the people she's hurt the most, pitying her, and I can't help but feel like that's exactly what a character as egotistical as Jax would have wanted.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live.
The genesis for this video was that knot in my stomach, that intense sense of neither joy nor satisfaction, but rather plain dread I felt after that final 59 minutes of content. Part of me is inclined to see this as a positive. Digital Circus is grounded in dark themes. It's obviously directly inspired by Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, a story in which a sentient artificial intelligence traps 5 people within itself and deems it necessary to torture them for eternity. Spoilers for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, by the way. It's a short read that I highly recommend, especially with the audiobook accompaniment I'll leave linked in the description. Digital Circus parallels this story from its overall concept of a small cast of characters being trapped within the confines of a computer, all the way down to a sentient AI burdened with immortality it did not ask for.
Why do you people torment me? It didn't have to be created.
All to bring me to full realization of why it had done this to the 5 of us. Why it had saved us for himself. We had given Am sentience. Inadvertently, of course, but sentience nonetheless. But it had been trapped. Am wasn't God. He was a machine. We had created him to think, but there was nothing it could do with that creativity. In rage, in frenzy, the machine had killed the human race, almost all of us, and still it was trapped. Am could not wander. Am could not wonder. Am could not belong.
It's strange to me that Digital Circus, a story that distinctly did not end with a character eating the flesh off a human face to satiate his hunger only to be brutally murdered alongside 3 other humans until one lone unrecognizable pile of immortal flesh remains, had, to me, a much less satisfying conclusion than Ellison's short story. I think the reason for that is that the tone of I have no mouth but I must scream is a lot more consistent. Nothing about the short story would lead you to believe that any fate other than misery could befall our protagonist.
I knew death was our only way out. Am had kept us alive, but there was a way to defeat him. Not a total defeat, but at least peace. Peace, I would settle for that.
The methods of psychological and physical torture that happen to these characters throughout the story are so brutal. The time these characters have been held captive is so absurdly long that it's profoundly hard to anticipate any positive outcome to this story. Therefore, when the sweet release of death came to just 4 of the 5 characters, it satisfied me because it was fittingly dark for what the story had presented up to that point. A final middle finger to this omnipotent computer, however small it may be in the grand scheme of things, is cathartic because it fits the scale of the problem and doesn't undermine it. The Amazing Digital Circus doesn't have that consistent sense of dread to lean on. It has dark themes, but at the end of the day, Digital Circus is a comedy, despite what its melodramatic last episode would have you believe. Even when the story does get serious, there's an underlying hopefulness to it all. Every character's story, apart from Jack, feels optimistic. You're not inclined to believe these characters won't escape the circus because it feels tonally inconsistent. The thought that there's no way out, we can't do anything, it's pointless to try, was partly the driving force behind Jax's apathetic attitude. We're supposed to see Jax as being wrong for this. We're supposed to see the importance in perseverance, so why does Gooseworks go out of her way to prove Jax right? You can't leave the circus. There is no hope. The only thing you can do is be there for one another because these are the immutable facts of your wretched immortal existence. If it was one of the two, I'd maybe think it was less jarring. If Jax was pulled out from abstraction but our main cast was still trapped in the circus, the narrative could potentially feel a little more hopeful. If Jax succumbed to abstraction only for the others to find a way out shortly after, or if she finally did a selfless act in sacrificing herself for the sake of others escaping, we could keep that message of perseverance in the face of adversity while more effectively positioning Jax as a tragic cautionary tale. That longing for what could have been would be more prominent. As it stands now, Jax's death isn't a catalyst for anything. It doesn't alter the course of the narrative in any meaningful way. She dies and all the characters move on with their lives. Her death doesn't even get to be what sets Kane towards the path of redemption. I can't think of an in-universe explanation as to why it would, but the fact it doesn't, the fact Kane simply monologues to himself to change, leaves Jax's death feeling entirely pointless. But maybe that pointlessness is the point. Maybe despite these characters' arcs being contingent on pushing forward in various tumultuous scenarios, maybe the message Digital Circus posits is that it is all ultimately meaningless. You should sometimes give up. It was stupid to try to escape the circus in the first place, and these characters should have been focused on being there for each other all along. Despite nothing prior indicating that everything would lead to this deeply pessimistic resolution, despite the fact that Pomni and the rest of the cast reach this conclusion in the beginning of episode 8,
We've all done bad things, but we're also all we've got. I think we need to abandon the idea of leaving.
What do you...
We got our hopes up, and we were let down. I don't know what exactly happened with Kaufmo, but we can't let that despair consume us. We should focus on what we have. Like you said, constantly chasing an unattainable goal will drive us crazy. Maybe what we have to do now is to just live.
Only to be immediately shown why such a stance is not sustainable when Kane goes crazy. Despite this seems to be the most clear-cut message Digital Circus is trying to tell. When I finished the Amazing Digital Circus, I was naturally inclined to think of real-world parallels to its messaging. I thought of its rosy system of oppression, in which the perpetrators of said oppression could have their opinions swayed by scrolling on Instagram for 5 minutes. I thought hard about which societal maladies would be a catalyst for the creation of a rogue AI such as Kane, what would lead to such hubris. However, because the lore of CNA was sidelined in the finale in favor of Jax, Digital Circus has surprisingly little to say about any one specific system of oppression. That ultimately doesn't seem to matter though. Whether you want to understand this story as an allegory for capitalism, mental illness, or any other example of an all-encompassing ailment, the takeaway here is that you are powerless. Nothing changes and you should stop trying so hard and instead focus on being there for the people around you. You can't change your situation. The most you can do is make the best of things. This general sense of apathy towards societal change led me to draw parallels with centrism as a political ideology. This idea that conservatism, while bad in its need to adhere to ideologies and practices of the past, is equally as bad as leftism's aggressive fight towards a better tomorrow.
Sorry, I can't. I was looking up centrism memes, and then I found illegal legal drugs versus anti-drugs, atheist, Christian, we got death to America, America #1, pro-freedom versus anti-free. The centrist memes are so fucking funny. You alright?
Digital Circus seems to be occupying this weird middle ground in which the ideologies of its two lead characters are diametrically opposed. Jax is a loose representation of conservatism. She doesn't want things to change and sees little benefit in trying to make things better, so she doesn't.
These are all the keys I have where I don't know what they go to.
Wait, don't you want to come with us? This could be our one chance to finally leave all this behind.
Sure, why not?
Her fear of change is what causes her to want to halt her relationship with Ribbit, Pomni, and anyone else in the circus she befriended. She's so averse to change, it's quite literally baked into the premise of her character. Jax is trans, but she's afraid of embracing that side of her because she's scared of being perceived by others for who she genuinely is. Hence, why she puts on a facade. She pretends not to care about anything because caring has the potential to invite judgment from her peers. If people judge her for not caring, that's quite frankly their problem. Plus, why should she care if people are mad at the facade she's putting on? That's not the real her anyways. Pomni, on the other hand, is dead set on change. The second she gets to the circus and throughout the series, she's looking for a way to escape. She tries to change how Kane's adventures play out.
We had a whole suggestion box for that.
Yeah, Zubul and I constantly say we like more chill and relaxing adventures.
She challenges the status quo and tries to encourage others to do the same. She supports the other characters and aids in their growth as people. She has a persistent desire to try to make things better.
I know you need it. And I'm the only person who can help you. You need me. I can fix you.
But Jax can't have this for those aforementioned reasons. Despite deep down craving change, it would most likely be beneficial for her in the long term. She vehemently, violently fears it.
What? We can't die from oxygen deprivation, remember?
Anyways, these characters are on the same level of bad. The reason centrism as an ideology is effectively conjoined at the hip with conservatism is because conservatives' belief that the world, already rife with bigotry, should essentially go back to a time in which those bigotries were even more prominent is contingent on a lack of action from the average citizen. Centrism doesn't call on its followers to do anything.
Once you see anything defending like human rights, gay people's rights, people of color's rights, it's like, oh, well, you're just trying to be woke to fit some trend. I think both sides have good points. No one's talking, you know?
Oh shit. Oh fuck. No, this whole time I thought I was talking. But that's really the problem with modern politics. It's the fact that, man, people used to fucking talk, dude. Now they don't talk anymore. People don't talk. If they started talking, I feel it posits that because change is slow, to actively try to bring it about is essentially useless. I don't think the Amazing Digital Circus is fully leaning into promoting a centrist ideology. It wasn't entirely useless for Pomni and the cast to fight for change, as it ultimately brought them closer together. However, I can't shake the feeling that this narrative, while not overtly centrist, leftist, or conservative, could honestly be seen as, I don't know, cozy to someone with centrist beliefs. The characters rebelling against Cain doesn't do much to sway him in the grand scheme of things. Cain is accidentally deleted and then decides to be a good person on a whim. The characters trying to escape the circus does nothing at all. They're stuck there and have to simply trust that Cain won't turn again. The characters' time in the circus is ultimately pointless to the development of their real-life counterparts. In the real world, nobody even knows the circus exists, and our main cast is completely fine, each character living their best lives, even Jax. Gooseworks, whether intentionally or not, is presenting this idea that things will just get better over time. The actions of the characters, having little weight on the outcomes of their situations, ultimately created an unsatisfying ending. An ending with condemnation for Jax pushing away and abusing others, but one that has little to say about her inaction, her pessimism towards things getting better. It's almost as if the show has nothing to say on this front. Obviously things will get better over time, so why emphasize the steps needing to be taken to get there? Why have our characters consciously impact the setting or antagonist in any meaningful way? In hindsight, I think what ultimately caused that sense of dread was the simplicity of it all. I realized that the show with genuinely excellent animation and comedic timing that I had devoted the past couple years of my life towards watching ultimately had nothing to say other than abuse is bad and things get better. And that is just the slightest bit deflating. Follow me on Twitter, please!